Dele, how are you?
Hey, what's up? Hey, Sue's doing well, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, definitely. My pleasure. And I know we've been wanting to jump on in front of the mic, in front of the camera for some time now, like what, 2, 3 weeks now?
Oh yeah, I think it's more than that, man. So it's been a long time coming, man. So I'm definitely excited. A lot of anticipation, man.
Now, for those tuning in to the show, Dele Sobomehin is a respected basketball coach and CEO of Team Esface, a full-time year-round basketball academy serving thousands of athletes since 2005. He has showcased visionary leadership and intense passion for basketball that has defined his career success, leading up to the Academy winning 8 national championships in 10 years. Wow. So, to date, the Academy has succeeded in producing successful players, more than 20 of whom play for JV or Varsity as a freshman. Over 10 Team Esface graduates have gone to play college basketball, from full scholarship NCAA Division One and NAIA to junior college. A lot of great stuff, a lot of exciting topics to talk about, a lot of valuable information around Team Esface and entrepreneurship. So thank you again, Dele, for joining us on the show. So let's dive right in. You're back. Let's dive right into the first question. Can you hear me, Dele?
Yep. I'm back. Sorry about that. Got
No worries.
chopped up.
The joy of technology during sheltering in place.
Yeah, exactly. Get to the curve. Man.
But yeah, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, though?
Yeah, good question. Well, it started back in college. My brother and I always had a passion to really just change popular culture. I think we witnessed a lot of what we would call negative themes and values that were, conveyed in a lot of the urban culture outlets, right? Through music, through entertainment, through all of these avenues. We saw some things that weren't necessarily positive, right? Or what we would deem positive. So the motivation was really the overarching goal of Esface was to make popular culture positive so that positive culture will become popular. I know it's a bit of a tongue twister,
Interesting.
but that's what it was about, man. It's really about how can we be a positive force in pop culture and use these different avenues, to do just that.
Hmm. Now, for those that don't know about Team Esface, how did you guys come up with the name?
Yeah, so Esface, it started out as Esface, back in undergrad as young collegiate students who really didn't have a clue of how to run a business. Um, it started out with us kind of cutting hair as a side hustle as just undergrad kids, right?
Nice.
We would cut hair. He was at Stanford at the time. I was at Santa Clara. And during that time, we collaborated with a few others, at Stanford actually. And we started, to cut hair on a regular basis. And through conversations about popular culture, about just, the different ways to change it and just what our passions were, it evolved into what became known as Esface. That was derived from 5 S's and a C. So, it's a funny story, but if you have time, I'll break it down. It's basically 5 S's and a C. One of my good friends who cut hair as well, he went by Stallion Styles. We
Hmm.
went by Shobo Shop, our last name
Yeah, yeah.
truncated to Shobo Shop is what we called our, my brother and I cut hair kind of under that name. So it was a collaboration of Trouble Shop and Stallion Styles, which is 4 S's, and that was at Stanford University, and I say obviously at Stanford, and Santa Clara. So you got 5 S's and a C. So when you start with
Wow.
5 S's and a C, 5SC, then you switch that up to S5C, say S5C 5 times, and you got Esface. And then that became an acronym actually for
Wow, that's
education.
creative. That's really creative.
Yeah. So as I said, it's an acronym though. So oftentimes I don't tell that story. I just go straight to the acronym, which is education and service through the face of popular culture, FACE,
Hmm.
which is fashion, athletics, community, and entertainment. So it's a multifaceted lifestyle brand, that was born, conceived around '05.
You guys really thought through that one. I don't know any entrepreneur that creative on coming up with the company name, honestly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's pretty unique, So hopefully, I'm glad you uh, appreciate it. I think the hard part is that Google doesn't know about it because it's not really a common name, so it's original. So we might get the best SEO results.
Well, you guys definitely dominate the market when it comes to company name. You guys' branding is on point.
Yeah,
Now,
more of us.
yeah. So as an entrepreneur, and there's those that are, tuning into the show that are entrepreneurs that want to take it to the next level. There's some that aspire to be an entrepreneur, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of the interviews that we do are entrepreneurs, marketing professionals, small business owners, right? One of the things is asking them about their journey, what they like, don't like about entrepreneurship. What's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
The favorite part, yeah, I thought a little bit about that. I mean, it's two-part. First, I'd just say the nonstop journey of growth, man. Just being able to grow as a leader, as a manager, and as a businessman.
Mm.
I'd say, the challenges that you face for all those who run a small business or, you know, are involved in trying to lead a big business. The challenges, they never stop. They're diverse, they change from time to time, and it never ends. But I think as a result of that, there's so many opportunities to grow, and you're constantly able to learn if you're
Right.
able to obviously not just go through all those challenges but grow through them, right? So I love that. And then the next thing I would say is just being able to create culture, not having to conform to another person's
Mm.
values or cultures, but having I'd say it's very liberating and rewarding to be able to evolve and to be able to infuse your values into a culture, and not let that be necessarily dictated by someone else outside of yourself, right? So
Right.
those two things are, they fell on top.
What has been like the biggest challenges that you've had to face?
One of them, I think it's common amongst any business owners, which is hiring, you know,
Yes.
highly talented people who are also a good fit for your organization, right? I'd say first, just to find talent out there, as you know, is not as easy as you would think, and then more importantly, trying to find talent that really is a good fit for your organization. So, and then I would say the next thing is how to scale in terms of who you serve, how many people you serve, and not compromise on quality, meaning trying to scale and have a consistency across the board, is a huge challenge for me. I'd say anyone in the service industry knows that, every human being is limited in the amount of people we're able to serve right in person.
Right.
So having to grow in that way, has been a challenge for sure.
Mm. What has been the biggest opportunity for growth for you as an entrepreneur based on all the challenges that you've had to face?
Oh, exactly. I would say one of the areas I've had to grow is how to hire. Right. I think oftentimes we hear one of the most common mistakes. I can't speak for anyone else, but I know me. I fall. I'm victim to this, which is I've hired a lot of people who were much like me, whose energy I could vibe with, I could relate to. Right.
Mm.
So if I get a guy who comes in my office and is passionate about Esface, they 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 get the culture, they love the game of basketball and they love growth. They seem like they're hungry to grow, and have impact on lives. I instantly get excited about that. And at times I would hire them for positions where I didn't truly, or thoroughly vet them and see if they had the skill set, right? So I think I've hired on what's called like the first two C's. I have three C's that I pretty much use to hire, and that builds the culture, which is character, chemistry, and competence. And I like to say character and chemistry supersede the competence. But while those two are the most important, I would say I've failed at really recognizing what are the competencies that are required for a certain position and making sure that I hire people who are going to be set up for success in that role, right? And putting the right people in the right seats. So that's been the biggest opportunity for growth. And I'd say just recently, honestly, 10 years of being full to time, just this past year, have I really done a better job of actually trying to vet them, any prospect literally for their skill set and really understand what their skills are before I hire them. So it's not, an awkward thing where I hire them, I'm all excited,
Right.
and then we end up learning, oh man, this person, although they're a great fit, they just don't have the skill set or the experience to really add a lot of value. So it
Hmm.
causes a lot of frustration, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and that's really valuable information because hiring and recruiting is difficult for any entrepreneur. And then it's even more important to hire the right talent. One, it's just hard to find great talent. That's just hard in itself, right? So the fact that you've pretty much have molded the process and you've learned about that, that's awesome.
No, for sure. And I gotta shout out, a partner or a mentor of mine from the years back who inspired me with those C's. It was over at PCC, I believe the Peninsula Community Church, I believe. And we had a relationship, and the director at the time explained what their philosophy was on these three C's, and that stuck with me ever since. Under those three C's, so I say that to say, if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, feel free to adopt that for sure. But obviously, under those C's, what is going to be unique to you is what character are you looking for? What are the values that you have that falls underneath each C? That's going to change, but that's great framework that I got, and I held on to.
Hmm. Now, a little bit about entrepreneurship is fears,
Hmm.
right? A lot of entrepreneurs will act like they don't have fears, but they're fearful. And there's fears when you're first starting out as an entrepreneur, and then there's fears today as an entrepreneur, right? Sometimes they might even look different. What fears did you have when you first started, and what fears do you face now? And maybe just talk a little bit about how you overcome those fears.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, fears are a big part of my daily life. Fears that show themselves through anxiety. I would say,
Hmm.
anyone out there who feels anxiety, I think the root of anxiety oftentimes is fear of certain outcomes, right? So
Right.
I think early on, I think I would say the most consistent fears and anxieties I've had have been around failure and being afraid of not really Isfachi the and the business not really materializing into something that I can build, a livelihood on. I
Mm.
think that was a bigger fear early on. It was, is this going to become a business that is respectable, that can actually pay the bills, where I can eventually, you know, one day be a married man as I am now. Those were the fears early, and still be able to provide, right, for not
Mhm.
only myself, but now a wife and a household, eventually kids. So that was always a fear. And then now it's more I think my greatest fear is around my reputation as a businessman. So if I quote unquote fail, if I quote unquote fail, will I be able to still have the respect from the peers or the community as a businessman? So I think it's more centered around me. And I think the more that I get in touch with those fears, I'm able to deal with them appropriately and in a healthy way. So the biggest way that I deal with those fears are, I pray, so I'm a man of faith. And I oftentimes pray in the morning. I journal. I try to become aware of them, and then I believe that I can take them to God, and that can take a lot of it off of my, putting trust in a power or force that's greater than you. In this case, God. It really helps me let go of those fears, because we all know the best performances come out of not really being controlled by fears, right? If you think about it
Yes.
in an athlete like a Steph Curry, or the best games that they had were where they went off and dropped 50 plus, is when they just were not
Yes.
worried about anything and were completely loose. So that's an ability to let go and get in the zone. And I think
Hmm.
us as business people also get in the zone and really let go when we're not operating out of fear and trying to control everything. Because that's who I am. When I'm anxious, I try to control, and then I strangle the business. If you can see that visual, I strangle it. So now it's not able to grow and blossom into what it's really destined to become. So I give those up to God every day. Sometimes it creeps back up on me. I set reminders to go pray even in the afternoon, in the middle of the day, because even after the morning starts, I can become overcome. I can get kind of overwhelmed with fears or anxiety about everything on my plate and all these things. So especially in a time like now, in COVID-19, there obviously is a lot new fears that have been introduced, but yeah, that's in general how I deal with them. I just try to be aware first. So I would just encourage anyone, just try to be aware and write them out. It slows down your thoughts when you're able to journal.
Hmm.
I type them out, and then I'm able to pray about those specifically and share those, and not be controlled by them. I put them out there, and then I move on and try to get loose and try to get in the zone.
I love that, because what you're describing, and the way I translate, and correct me if I'm wrong, is self-awareness is
Hmm.
key. You identify your fears, and if you're not identifying your fears, then you're not taking them to prayer or journaling them out, so you have facts to work with. Um, and even taking a break from work, a lot of entrepreneurs need to unplug a little bit.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
fact that you're taking it to God by going out on a prayer walk, I mean, that's epic. That's awesome. I love that.
yeah.
And
Not perfect, man. So I gotta be honest. I don't do that in the afternoon every day, but that's the goal.
oh, it's all good, man. I don't know anyone who's perfect. So,
Yeah.
but what you also said, what you make a really good point about, you can easily strangle, you can limit the growth of your company. It could actually damage your business and relationships if you don't deal with the fears. You can easily control things. You can easily just, I mean, it just doesn't have, you limit creativity, you limit growth. You also do more damage in relationships. Um, are you able to see that too?
Absolutely. I would say, yeah, the strangling thing. I was speaking last year to Jeremy Lin. Actually, we caught up. After some open run. He usually I play with him a little bit over the years when he comes back home. He's from here in the area of
Nice.
Colorado.
Shout out to Jeremy Land.
Shout out to Jay Lynn, man. Yeah, exactly. He's another man of faith. Um, who
Mhm.
is probably one of the most humble, pro athletes that I've ever known. But he shared with me an article about a college coach who talked about strangling his organization, and that always stuck with me because the visual was very clear, right? To
Mhm.
strangle something to try to control it. But back to your question, I would say, I see it impact, all my relationships, because oftentimes when I'm anxious and controlled by that fear, I'm less patient, right? I'm more uptight. I snap at people. So I'm not really a nice person when I'm controlled by anxiety or very anxious and unaware. It just becomes, it damages relationships because of the things I can say. I can say condescending things. For folks on my staff, it just gets to a point where there are some very unhealthy tendencies that emerge when I don't deal with my anxiety right. And now as a married man, for all of you who are married, marriage is the biggest mirror that you have in your life. So anytime I'm off and I interact with my wife, who knows me more than any other human being, I get exposed all the time. So that's really, kind of a barometer, to see how I'm doing in marriage. Ultimately lets me know, am I dealing with my anxiety right, or do I need to go pray more, or maybe just go,
Hmm.
go breathe, go play some ball. There are a lot of other healthy things that you can do to try to relieve stress from every angle.
No, that's valuable information, and thanks for sharing honestly and
Mhm.
vulnerably. Um, that's awesome, and it's awesome that you're learning a lot of these things because not a lot of entrepreneurs are even there. A lot of entrepreneurs will try to downplay it or act like they don't have fears. I mentioned that a little bit at the beginning and stuff. So I appreciate the realness. I wanted to also talk about, you have a nonprofit. You want to touch a little bit on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So from the jump, um, from the beginning, we always had a heart to serve those. Once we pivoted to youth basketball and went full time, I went full time in youth basketball in about 2010, so about a decade now. And at that time, and even before, we knew that there was, a disparity amongst those who have a lot and those who don't, right? And we wanted to make sure that the kids who were from households that didn't have as many resources as the other ones on the quote unquote other side of the tracks, if you will, were still able to take advantage of what we offered. So I grew up in a house where my dad and my mom, they devoted their lives to at-risk youth in Portland, Oregon. So that heart of uh,
Wow.
of of having compassion for those who don't necessarily have a strong foundation and really have resources to access the different programs and things that can enrich your life and really instill good values. That was something that was instilled at a young age. So I'm grateful for that upbringing, and because of that, it was always, how do I support those? How do I create a structure that makes it easier to raise funds and to and to
Hmm.
give more scholarships and
Right.
more financial aid, if you will. So that's what really drove, you know, uh, that's what drove the desire, and that's how we were able to eventually have a 501c3 that was created, and now we have an active board, where for our team specifically, where we're able to offer more and more scholarships and raise more funds in that way.
Nice. I love that. Is there a URL for that? If, there's a lot of people that want to donate to nonprofits, what would be the
No,
best way to get in contact with your nonprofit?
absolutely, yes. So it's just teamisfachi.org actually. So it's .org, and we have a .com. So just teamisfachi.org. Obviously the spelling is in here, but team ESFACE.org. Yep.
Awesome. And those that are interested, I'll go ahead and put this on our YouTube video. You can visit my YouTube channel, Jesus McDonald, and I'll add all of that information for Team Esface, both websites, .com and .org. And
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. I love what you guys are doing, especially here in Silicon Valley.
Hmm.
So, in regards to your ideal client, right? This is an interesting question. Some people like it. Some people, it's kind of hard for them to answer it. But what is your ideal client? Because they might be listening, they might be watching this.
Yeah, that's a good question. That one has always been a little tough for me, but with more reps, I've been able to get more clear. I think at the end of the day, our culture, an ideal client, and this won't be as specific, so feel free to ask more. But the ideal client is someone who really aligns with the values of Espachi, and in this case, it's more having a growth mindset and valuing the sport of basketball not only as the best sport who shares the passion about this game, but also sees the opportunity for this sport to be a teacher of life, right? I think team sports offer unique opportunities to teach young athletes how to really navigate this game, the most important game that we all play, which is life. And I think life is a team sport. I heard that quote once speaking to a parent. I loved it. So I've been saying it ever since. Life is a team sport, right? So I want parents who understand and value that and know that it's bigger than just can your kid you know play on the most competitive team or get this type of exposure. It's like, are they developing, and do you value that? The development of not only the athlete but also the person, right? In terms of character and all those other aspects, I would say, of a student, of a young athlete.
No, definitely. Character growth is big. And I have a friend that has teenagers, and he was asking me, hey, what are some great team sports to play? Because I want them being more around people that are about achieving a goal, but they have to not rely on themselves, but they have to trust in the other person's ability, skills, you name it, right? And I'm like, wow, that's a beautiful thing, because not a lot of people think that way. And in regards to character growth. So,
No, you're absolutely right. And the other thing is willing to invest. And I'm not saying just money, although you should be willing to invest, resources and time, into the development of your child, right? I think from
mhm,
a basketball standpoint, even if you want to look at it just from hoop, you have to be willing to invest and understand
right.
that you're committing yourself to a process and not just like a sprint, right? It's more of a process. So if you're willing to really allow us to invest, in your kid, but you're willing to commit yourself as a family, I think that's the ideal client. Kind of sees that long term picture
Right.
and is able to see that growth over time. So
Now, do you guys only focus in Silicon Valley, or do you guys go outside Silicon Valley?
yeah, good question. Right now with COVID, thanks, the silver lining. Obviously, I think a lot of small businesses were able to experience is being forced to go online. So now we actually have virtual workouts that are offered to anyone who's in the right time zone, right? It's live. So we have those virtual
Oh, I
workouts
love
that
that.
is going on for any age group. And that's happening all throughout the week, right? But I think our in-person operation obviously is for those who are right here on
Mhm.
the peninsula or within a comfortable range. But all of our online stuff is accessible to anyone in the world essentially, but the time zone, because it is live right now, is going to be a factor.
Nice. Is there specific dates and times, or it changes all the time?
No, it's usually the same. It's the same day to time based on the age group and level. So I would just go to the site and you'll be able to see a menu of classes and
Mhm.
the right one. It's usually a consistent time.
Now, what is the range for ages? Like
Oh,
you
we start
start
at kindergarten. Yeah, so we
seriously?
yeah. It used to be first grade. It used to be first grade actually in a program we called or we called neo prep. So our
Oh,
babies, if you
nice.
will, first and second grade, and some kindergartners, they play in a neo prep, right, where they're able to just obviously learn fundamentals. Start to build the love for the game, have fun. There's more fun
I
at that
love
age.
that.
Fun is paramount, right? Is the number one priority. Want them to enjoy the game and not necessarily going as hard or more. A bunch of skill work, but they are going to learn all the basics and be able to play as well. So that's what we do for that age, and then we go all the way up to elite high school kids in a program we call college prep. So we
Mm.
have our college prep program that's really geared towards high school players who have dreams and ambitions of playing beyond high school, and we prepare them in that way and give them exposure to colleges and continue to help them develop their game and their characters so that they could be, open up
Okay.
more and more doors at the next level.
Yeah, you kind of beat me to the punch, because I was going to ask you, how do you handle if a parent wants to put their kid into one of these programs, and with COVID-19 going on, right? There's a lot of fear that parents have, and then there's some that are like, I just want my kid to just do it because he or she has so much energy. you know, and this is a good way to just burn off that energy and have fun and, build their character too, right? But you answered that by going digital with it, which is awesome, right? And another thing about digital is there's a lot of businesses that, when their doors closed, when COVID-19 hit, sheltering in place, heck, even the wildfires, right? Like, not a lot of people are going out, right?
True.
So they're all trying to stay safe and healthy. How difficult was that? Because you had to go from face to face, in person, talking with the client, with the team, to full scale digital transformation, right?
Yeah. I
How
mean,
was that experience?
yeah, it wasn't as tough as you would think, honestly, because we have a strong infrastructure. I think that's what really differentiates us from a lot of, I would say, youth sports organizations, is having a strong infrastructure, but also having a great staff, right? So
Hmm.
my staff is very high level, and they were able to be professional enough to pivot, along with the organization. So they were able to adapt, So hats off to, all the guys who are essentially on the front lines of
Hmm.
the digital coaching movement, which I think a lot of us in youth sports have been forced to go to. But yeah, in general, we just started out with our teams, and we utilized Zoom. I've always been a Zoom fan, so I already had a company account for Zoom actually before this whole thing hit. Which really, as you know, Zoom ended up emerging as the top, and now it's a verb.
Hmm.
Everything, a noun, verb, and now it's just a household name. So Zoom, it worked out. I
Yeah.
was comfortable with it. A lot of folks, already knew how to utilize Zoom with their schools and stuff. So we went to Zoom and it worked out. Obviously, it's a challenge because a lot of folks don't want to be on the screen for that many hours. But
Right.
the parents were very happy with the speed, at which we were able to transition, right, and start to offer them things and still meet them where they're at. So they were,
They could just
it's
do it from their house, right? They can just do
yeah.
it from the house, backyard. I mean, wherever, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of kids are in their garage, in a driveway. If they have a hoop in the backyard, in the front, whatever it is, and you don't even need a basketball hoop actually. So
That's good
we
to know.
find workouts where you don't need a hoop, because
Right.
we know there are a lot of kids who don't have hoops. So when I run my workouts, I was actually operating right here in this room at the office, where I was able to, and I don't have a hoop in here, obviously. So I was just able to work on a lot of other skills that didn't require a basket, footwork, ball handling skills, and conditioning.
I'm gonna get my son Dustin on that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that young
Nice,
boy.
nice. And yeah, those who are watching this on YouTube, this is not just an ordinary black shirt. This is a legit Team Esface.
Ooh, that's nice, man. I respect that. Oh, you got the
Look at
dry
that.
right there. Yeah, I got the
That's
tribal here.
oh, you got a better one.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yes,
Quality.
gift from Dele. I love it. I probably wear it more than any other T-shirt, honestly.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate that love.
But last thing to end, this podcast interview, and this is for our listeners. Do you have any advice for our listeners that may want to start a business or take their leadership position to the next level?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The number one advice would be get a mentor or a business coach. If you don't already have one, you want to surround yourself with those who are more successful than you are, right? Or those who are smarter than you, because in those relationships you will be stretched. And I've always had, I mean, for the past, I've been fortunate to find an awesome business coach and advisor, who's worked with us and me directly, for several years. I think it's 4 or 5 years now, and that's
Nice.
been great. But I also have a team of advisors. So I would say put together your own advisory board, right? It doesn't have to be a paid position. It could just be those in your network who are at a place where you want to be in any area in leadership, have ran companies, have more experience in a certain field. Make sure that you surround yourself with them, and I think that will be step one. And then also just always making sure that you have clarity and work on having clarity. This is an area that I struggle in, and
Mm.
have to continue to grow in, which is making sure that you have clarity around your vision, around your goals. And the more clarity I believe you have, that transitions to really anyone on your team and yourself, just being able to, make the most effective moves that are going to push the needle closer
Right.
and closer towards a focused, path. Right. So I think just clarity is big time.
Awesome. Valuable information. I mean, this whole thing was valuable information, things that I learned even about your business too, Deli, and the things that you value, your beliefs, and how you run as an entrepreneur is really inspiring. So thank you for your time, and you have a great day, okay?
Thank you for the opportunity. And, again, I, I wish you and all the other listeners out here the best of luck. And I appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your journey and having me on, man. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely.